So you're getting ready to jump into the world of growing cannabis, huh? But you also want to make sure that you're keeping things clean, green, all that good stuff.
Right. Sustainability.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Using beneficial insects to control pests, that's actually becoming super popular right now in the cannabis space.
Yeah, it's a really interesting trend, I think, because, for a long time, all the rage was chemical pesticides. But, those days are kind of going away.
Yeah, seems like they're on their way out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think, people are more and more aware these days of, like, what they're actually consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody really wants to be, lighting up and getting, like, a bunch of chemicals with it.
Yeah, that's the last thing anyone wants.
For sure.
It's almost like, thinking about organic food, but
Yeah.
in this case, it's for, for your
Sure.
cannabis.
Exactly.
But safer, obviously, for the consumer, for the grower, for the environment, like everybody wins, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit more about this whole beneficial insect thing. I mean, like, how does it work?
So basically, the idea with beneficial insects is like we're working with nature, right? So instead of trying to fight nature with all these like harsh chemicals and stuff, we can actually use nature like to our advantage.
Harnessing the power.
Right, exactly, yeah. These, you can think of them as like little tiny superheroes, each of which kind of has its own little like niche and its own like specific talent that it can use to go after certain pests.
Oh,
So it's pretty cool stuff.
okay. I'm intrigued. But before we unleash, like, our army of insect superheroes on these cannabis plants,
Right.
let's actually, put a face to the enemy here. Like, what are the pests that are out there that are trying to, ruin our crops and all this?
Know your enemy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so like one very common one is, aphids. Have you heard of those?
Aphids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this one in particular. It's called the green peach aphid.
Green peach aphid. Okay.
Yeah. And they're tiny. I mean, they're tiny little insects,
Mhm.
but they just suck the life right out of your cannabis plants.
Oh, wow. Okay. Green peach aphid, I mean, it kind of rolls off the tongue nicely. But like you said, these things are tiny, right? So, like, what's the big deal? I mean, like, how much damage can these little guys really do?
You would be surprised. Don't let the size fool you.
Yeah.
These things are like, they multiply like crazy. They are out of control.
Oh, no.
Like,
Yeah.
super fast.
Yeah.
And then it's not just that they're sucking the plant's juices, but they can also carry diseases, plant viruses, and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, so it's a big problem. And we're talking, if they get out of control, we're talking
Right.
stunted growth, deformed leaves, sometimes the whole crop.
Wow.
Yeah, total crop failure.
That's devastating. Especially, what I was reading is that, cannabis in particular, it seems to be pretty vulnerable because, you don't want to use harsh chemicals on these plants, right? Because that impacts the quality and impacts like the taste, all of it, right?
Exactly. And, that's a huge part of why beneficial insects are really gaining popularity in the cannabis industry. I mean, it's because they can target these pests, but they don't come with all of those like, harsh side effects like all the chemical stuff does.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So moving on, I guess. Another big one in the cannabis world is mealybugs. Have you ever heard of these guys?
Mealybugs. I feel like I've heard of this.
Yeah, mealybugs. So these are the ones, they kind of look like, I don't know, have you ever seen them? They're kind of like little pieces of cotton almost.
They're like clinging to the plant, kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, like little pieces of cotton candy almost.
Yeah.
But don't let like the kind of, sort of innocent appearance fool you. These guys are, I mean, they're master hiders.
Wow.
They like to get under the leaves and, along the stems, and they just suck the life out of the plant.
They're sneaky.
They're very sneaky. And you know what? To make it worse, they're like aphids in the sense that, they secrete this honeydew. It's this sticky substance, and it attracts ants.
Oh, no. So they have friends.
They have friends. It's like they're bringing in backup.
It's like a whole gang. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and that honeydew, that can actually, it promotes sooty mold growth, too.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's like a triple whammy. It's like they are weakening your plants, they're bringing in their friends, other pests, and then it's like a breeding ground for mold and mildew and all this stuff.
It's like they're throwing a party on your cannabis plant and you're not invited.
Exactly, and not a fun party, like a really gross party.
Right. It's like that one friend who never chips in but eats all the food.
Exactly. They're the worst.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've got aphids, mealybugs. Who else is on our list of cannabis public enemies here?
Okay, so the next one, they're kind of like the vampires of the cannabis world, spider mites.
Pig mites. Oh gosh. Spider mites. I'm having flashbacks to my college dorm room. But no, spider mites. So tell me more about that.
So they're tiny. And they're arachnids, so they're not actually insects, but, whatever. And they're really good at, unfortunately, developing resistance to pesticides.
Oh no, so they're like they adapt.
They adapt, yeah, which is a huge problem, especially like in cannabis cultivation where, we're just talking about this, but like people want clean products. So you can't be, dumping a bunch of chemicals on there.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose.
Exactly. It defeats the purpose.
So you're it's like this arms race almost, right?
Yes. Constantly trying to stay ahead of them.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And I bet with the webs they spin, they're kind of hard to even detect sometimes too, right?
They are. I mean, they are masters of disguise, these things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times, by the time you see the damage, the webbing and all that, it's almost too late.
Oh no. So what kind of damage are we talking here?
I mean, they can really do a number on your plants. We're talking yellowing leaves, the growth gets all stunted, lower yields.
Hmm.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, they can also transmit plant viruses too.
No. They're like little disease vectors
Exactly.
running around the garden.
Yep. Wreaking havoc.
Okay, so we're seeing a theme here.
Hmm.
Small creatures, big potential problems.
For sure.
Any other notorious cannabis pests we need to be on the lookout for?
Okay, well, what about leaf miners? Have you ever heard of these guys?
Leaf miners.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that on other plants I've grown, but I'm not sure. Tell me more.
So they're called leaf miners because they mine into the leaves.
Right.
Yeah.
They get inside.
Yeah. So if you see like these squiggly lines, like tunnels basically, inside the leaves, that's them.
Like they're signing their work.
Yeah, basically. But not in a good way, obviously.
Right. Definitely not like Banksy or anything like that.
No.
No.
But, the problem is those tunnels, they disrupt the plant's ability to photosynthesize. So,
Right. They need that to live.
exactly. And it weakens the whole plant over time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I bet, you know what? I would imagine, I feel like I've seen those more often, like when I've tried to grow things inside. Is that a thing? Or am I just making that up?
No, you're right. They can be a really big problem indoors, especially in those kind of, controlled environments, where it's warm, it's humid.
It's like a playground for them.
Exactly. It's like a perfect breeding ground.
Oh, no. So indoor growers, you got to be extra careful.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Leaf miners. Who else is on our cannabis most wanted list here? We got to round out this list, I feel like.
Okay. Let's see. We've got whiteflies. Have you ever encountered these guys?
Whiteflies, yeah. I'm not sure, but I feel like I've heard the name. Tell me more about those. What makes them so bad?
So picture this, okay? You're in your cannabis garden, right? It's a beautiful day. You're strolling through, and then suddenly it's like this little blizzard erupts as you brush past one of your plants, like a flurry of white.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, those are whiteflies. And they are notorious for being able to reproduce like
They
crazy.
multiply quickly.
Yeah, they get out of hand really fast and just
Yeah.
overwhelm a plant in, no time.
Oh, no. It's like they're colonizing.
But exactly, they take over.
Oh, I'm picturing that. Not a pretty sight.
No, it's not pretty at all. And here's the thing. They're also kind of like aphids and mealybugs, right? They excrete that sticky honeydew, which, again, attracts ants, encourages mold growth, all that stuff.
So it's like they're not even satisfied with just wreaking havoc themselves. They have to bring in the reinforcement.
Right, like they're setting the stage for even more problems.
It's like they're having a rave on your cannabis plants, but it's not a fun rave.
Yeah.
It's like sticky, gross.
This is the worst rave ever.
Oh my gosh.
And then, if that wasn't enough, they can also spread harmful viruses to your plants too.
No,
No.
it's not bad enough already.
Yeah, I mean, they can be really destructive.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've got aphids, mealybugs, spider mites, leaf miners, whiteflies. Are we missing anybody on our cannabis most wanted list?
Okay,
Oh.
one more. We've got to talk about western flower thrips. Have you ever dealt with these?
Western flower thrips. Okay, I've heard of thrips.
Right.
What are western flower thrips? What makes them so special?
So these little guys are a problem because they specifically target the flower.
Oh no, not the flower.
Yeah,
That's the good stuff.
I know. That's what you've been working for this whole time, and they're coming after it.
I know. Oh my gosh. So how do they actually damage the flower?
So they've got these really sharp mouth parts
Yeah.
that they use to basically rasp away at the plant tissue.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Inside the bud itself.
Yeah, so you can imagine it's inside the bud. And so, I mean, I can make the flowers deformed, discolored. A lot of times the buds just don't develop properly at all.
Oh wow. So not only, I'm guessing the yield is affected, but the quality as well.
Exactly. The quality and the potency, everything.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And to add insult to injury, just like, a lot of these other pests, they can transmit viruses as well.
No, they're like little flying syringes of
I
disease.
know, they're so small, but they can cause so many problems.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of territory here. We've talked about a lot of bad guys. I'm starting to get a little bit anxious here. Like, I need some good news.
Right, so don't worry,
Okay, good.
because your research also talks about the good guys,
Uh-huh.
the beneficial insects.
Yes.
These are like the little warriors that are on the side of the cannabis grower.
The cavalry has arrived.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me everything.
All right, let's start with aphids, because I feel like everyone's got to deal with aphids at some point.
Right, it's like aphid-geddon out there.
Totally. So there is this really cool parasitic wasp.
Okay.
It's called Aphidius calamani.
Aphidius clamani. All right, that sounds a little, like sci-fi to me, but I'm here for it.
It does. It does. But don't worry, they're totally harmless to us, to pets, everything. They're just little assassins when it comes to aphids.
I'm all for a little insect espionage, if that means protecting my plants. So tell me, how does this work?
So basically, the female wasp, she injects her eggs into the aphid.
Oh, no.
Right. It's like a scene from Alien or something. But basically, then the wasp larva hatches inside the aphid and kind of eats it from the inside out.
That's amazing.
It's pretty brutal, but also really effective.
That's incredible. So instead of using harsh chemicals or something, you can just, release an army of these wasps.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, nature, right? Nature has a way.
Nature finds a way.
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay, so for mealybugs, we've got a couple of options.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so one is another predator. It's a type of ladybug, actually.
A ladybug.
I know, right? Everyone loves ladybugs. And it's called Cryptolemus montrouzieri.
Cryptolemus montrouzieri. Okay, what a mouthful. Is there, a common name or something?
Yeah, they call it the mealybug destroyer.
Mealybug destroyer. Okay, so that name's a little bit easier to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so ladybugs. Everyone loves a ladybug. They're cute. But they're out there. They're like, I don't know, they're like assassins, but they're cute assassins.
I know. They're like adorable little assassins.
So tell me more. How do they take out these mealybugs?
So both the adults and the larvae, they feed on the mealybugs.
Oh, wow.
And they're not picky. They'll take them in any stage, eggs, nymphs, adults, whatever. They're not picky.
That's what you want. Someone who's going to, they're not afraid to get their hands dirty.
Exactly. So they can really help, keep those populations under control before they even have a chance to, explode.
They nip it in the bud. I like it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about spider mites? Because, we were talking about those earlier, and it seems like they're pretty formidable. How do you even begin to combat them?
So there's this really cool predatory mite that actually feeds on spider mites.
Wait, hold on. We're fighting mites with other mites.
Yeah. It's like a microscopic battle going on in your garden.
I love it.
I know, it's pretty cool. So this one is called Phytocoelus persimilis.
Phytocoelus persimilis, another easy one to remember.
Right. But anyway, the cool thing about these guys is they especially love spider mite eggs.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like they're disrupting the life cycle.
They're cutting them off at the source. I love that.
I know. And the other cool thing is they reproduce really quickly. So you can actually get a pretty established population in your garden going pretty fast. And then they just kind of take care of themselves.
They're like a self-sustaining army.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we've got our aphid assassin, our ladybug, our predatory mites. What about leaf miners?
Oh.
Like those little guys that like to think they're artists, drawing all over our leaves.
Right. Not cool, but good news. We have something for them, too.
Okay, good, because I was starting to get a little worried.
So for leaf miners, there's another parasitic wasp, and it's called Diglyphosizea.
Another parasitic wasp. Okay, they're like a jack of all trades. I love it. So another parasitic wasp. Tell me more.
So this one, the females, they inject their eggs into the leaf miner larvae.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then, when the wasp larvae hatch, they eat the leaf miner, which is, obviously the circle of life.
The circle of life, but brutal, but effective.
Very effective.
Okay. So nature really does have an answer for everything, huh?
It does. It really does.
It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing what you can find out there.
Okay, so we're on a roll here. What about those whiteflies? Those ones that like to, create a blizzard every time you brush past your plants.
Right, those guys. So actually, this is cool, but one of the beneficial insects we already talked about can actually help with those too.
Oh, which one?
So Amblesius swirsky.
The spider mite one?
Yes. spider mite predator. It can actually handle thrips and whiteflies, too.
No!
Whoa!
So it's like a triple threat. I love it.
Multi-talented.
This is amazing.
They're really good in a lot of different environments, too. So indoor, outdoor, they can handle it.
Wow. Okay, so they're very adaptable.
They're adaptable.
I like it. Okay.
So that's definitely one to consider.
Okay. So last but not least, we've got those western flower thrips.
Right. The bud eaters.
The bud eaters. I know. Oh my gosh. Those ones give me anxiety. So how can we fight those guys?
Okay, let's see. For them, we have a predatory mite. It's called Emblycetus cucumerus.
Emblyceus cucumerus. Okay.
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, but I mean, it's a powerful name.
It's a powerful name for a powerful little creature.
That's right. So what makes this one stand out? Like, how come this is the one we bring in to fight the thrips?
So these guys, they're really good at getting into those tight spaces. You know how thrips like to hide in the buds?
Oh, yeah, they're sneaky. They're like ninjas.
Exactly. So this predatory mite can actually get in those buds and get them.
So they're like little bodyguards for your buds. I love it.
Exactly. Bud bodyguards.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one option. Are there any other, like, I don't know, maybe even cooler options for dealing with these?
Well, you're going to love this. There's a parasitic wasp.
Another parasitic wasp.
I know, right? These wasps are the best.
I know. Like, they're like the special forces of the insect world.
They're like the special ops team, yeah.
Yeah.
So this one is called Aureus insidiosus.
Aureus insidiosus.
And they are amazing at getting rid of those western flower thrips. They will eat both the larvae and the adults, so, double whammy.
It's like they're not even given a chance. I love it.
Exactly. They're very effective.
This is great. Okay, so we've got parasitic wasps. We've got predatory mites. We've got ladybugs. Like, it seems like there's this whole, like, I don't know, like ecosystem almost of beneficial insects out there that can help
I know.
protect our cannabis plants.
Exactly. And, the really cool things that they all kind of, like, work together, to create this natural balance.
It's like a symphony of pest control.
Exactly. It's like nature symphony.
I love it. So we're not just like, going in there and like trying to hit it with like, one thing, it's like
Right.
we're actually, working with nature to create this whole like, balance.
Yeah, exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Working smarter, not harder. I love that. And I'm guessing that's where IPM comes in, right? Integrated pest management.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah, because I was reading about that in your research, and it seems like that's a key part of like really making this whole beneficial insect thing work.
It's crucial. You can't just toss some ladybugs in there and hope for the best.
Yeah. They need a game plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So IPM is really all about like a holistic approach.
Yeah.
It's not just about the beneficial insects. It's about creating the right environment.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly. You got it.
So it's about like setting the stage, creating a space where these guys can thrive and do their thing.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, we want healthy plants, we want beautiful buds, right?
Absolutely.
And this is a really effective way to do it.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into IPM. Like, what are we talking about here? Give me the details.
Okay, so it starts with prevention, right? So even before we get to the beneficial insects, there are things you can do to kind of set yourself up for success.
Okay, I like it. So it's like we're not just, reacting to problems.
Exactly. We're trying to prevent them in the first place.
Okay.
So, like, one thing is just choosing pest-resistant Canada strains.
Oh, okay. So some strains are just naturally more resistant to these pests.
Exactly. It's like built-in protection.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And then just basic stuff like making sure you've got good airflow.
Right, so that things aren't stagnant.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then, proper spacing between your plants because that can help discourage disease from spreading.
Right, because if one plant gets it, it's not like right next door to another one.
Exactly. It's like social distancing for your cannabis plants.
I love that. Social distancing for plants, it's so true.
And then just being vigilant, getting out there, checking your plants regularly, looking for any signs of trouble.
Yeah, so it's like, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly. Early detection is key.
I like it. So we're preventing, we're monitoring. What else? What happens is, despite our best efforts, we see a few of those little bad guys, creeping around.
Okay, so even if you do find some pests, it's not necessarily time to panic.
Okay, good.
There are still things you can try before you have to break out the big guns. like the beneficial insects or even, organic pesticides.
Right, right. So what are some like, more, I don't know, gentle approaches we can try first?
Well, you can try sticky traps. Have you ever used those before?
Yeah. I feel like everyone's used sticky traps at some point.
Right. They're like the classic.
So they work for this too.
They totally work for cannabis pests, too.
What is it about them? Like, what makes them so effective?
So they're usually like, these bright yellow cards,
A bright yellow, yeah.
right? And they're coated with this sticky stuff, and it just traps those little pests like aphids, whiteflies, all those guys.
They can't resist that bright yellow. They're like, ooh, what is that? And then smack.
Exactly. And you know what? They're not just good for, like, trapping the pests,
Mm.
but they can also help you monitor how bad the infestation is.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, you can see, like, oh, there are a lot of these guys on here. Maybe I need to do something.
Like an early warning system.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so sticky traps. What else?
Let's see. You could also try something like insecticidal soap or neem oil.
Oh, yeah, neem oil. I've heard of that. It's supposed to be like all natural and stuff.
It is. It's a natural pesticide.
All right.
And it's great because it kills a lot of those soft-bodied insects like, the aphids, the whiteflies. But it doesn't leave a bunch of harmful residue on your plants.
And it doesn't harm the good guys either, right? It's like the beneficial insects.
It's much safer for beneficial insects than, like a harsh chemical pesticide.
Right, so it's like you're just targeting the bad guys.
Exactly. Very targeted approach.
Okay. But gosh, I'm already, with so many different pests, and then you have all these different beneficial insects, and then you've got IPM, like, where do you even begin? You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of information. How do you know, like, what's the right approach?
It can be overwhelming. There are so many options. It really just depends on what you're dealing with. What are the specific pests? What environment are you growing in?
Yeah.
Your personal preferences, too.
Right, right. So it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
Exactly.
Hmm.
You've got to find what works best for your specific situation.
So knowledge is power, like they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say, like, a good place to start is maybe just do a little research on the most common pests in your area.
Okay, so like know thy enemy.
Exactly. Know your enemy, and then you can start to explore, what are the beneficial insects or the IPM techniques that are most effective against those specific pests.
That makes sense.
And from there, it's all about experimentation.
Yeah, see what works.
Exactly.
Trial and error. I like it.
That's all part of the process, right?
Absolutely. This is great. Gosh, I feel like I've learned so much just from this, this conversation. So thank you for sharing your expertise.
Of course, my pleasure. And, I think the really important takeaway here is that by embracing these more natural solutions, we're not just protecting our cannabis plants, but we're also doing our part for the planet.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for everybody. Well, except for the pests, I guess.
Well, except for the pests. Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody else involved.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey, we've covered a lot of ground today. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I would just say, like, don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
Have fun with it. Gardening is supposed to be fun.
Yeah. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Exactly.
Okay. This was awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this. This was so informative.
My pleasure.
I feel like I can go out there and be like the integrated pest management, champion.
I love it. Go out there and be the IPM champion.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of cannabis pest control and the amazing world of beneficial insects. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, happy growing.